for as long as we've had recorded history, we've been really interested in how we make things that change the way we live or change the way we can interact with each other or with our environment. The Industrial Revolution introduced the idea of making things on a huge scale and making things that couldn't be made in any other way. And what the maker movement is pivoting on is the fact that some of these emerging technologies have made it possible for us to make things that used to only be possible in an industrial mass production model and actually make them in our living rooms or in our studios or our classrooms. We can actually make things that we simply couldn't make before.
I think the maker movement is a way of just people being able to be creative. It's a way of coming up with an idea and then building a device, coming up with a concept, but you end up with a prototype very quickly. And I think the difference from 15, 20 years ago is we now have technology that allows people to do this very rapidly.
The maker movement is kind of a correction, I think, in education. The maker movement is, I think, an outgrowth of our dependence on technologies based on screens and software. It's a yearning to have more interaction with the real world.
What I think is important about the maker movement is that it has brought together the science and the engineering aspects of what we call additive manufacturing with the creative aspects. And that's what's new about the maker movement. And what I think is happening here at the University of Texas is that we're bringing the creativity and the engineering and technology together in very unique ways.
We started our Longhorn Maker Studio just about 18 months ago, and it was essentially a prototype for us, allow us to try out different technologies before we go large scale in our new building. And we're really excited because in the first semester it opened, we had 10 different classes using this facility.
One of the things that was really lacking was a central place to do this. That is really what this space is about, is a central facility where students can come in here and tinker and make and use their hands. It is important to have things like our 3D printers and our laser cutters. They get used a lot, but they produce objects. If you really want to integrate them into structures or into devices, you need more than just the 3D printers and the laser cutters. And so although things like hammers and screwdrivers are relatively simple, they're really important. You got to be able to assemble these objects into something more than just the sum of the pieces.
Here in the School of Architecture, we have a variety of makerspace kind of tools. And they're pretty particular to what we do as architects, right? So we, for instance, run a furniture studio every semester. So we have a variety of woodworking tools, traditional hand tools, but also more modern tools, like we have a CNC router that you can use for doing woodworking. We have 3D scanners, we have laser cutters, we have a CNC knife cutting machine, we have 3 3D printers. So we have a pretty wide variety of tools, but each of those tools had to fit into the way that we structure our curriculum and the things that we care about.
Here in the Scenic Studio, we're using primarily traditional tools. We're still using the same wrenches and hammers here that we were using 20 years ago. We're blessed here with one of the best scenic artists in the country, in my opinion. And she is so giving with her time to teach the students, like how to paint a drop by hand, how to paint scenery by hand.
One of the most interesting things about the way the maker movement is emerging on campus is that, each of the sort of traditional disciplines in the university has their own driving forces behind what kind of maker spaces they're developing.
Several times today I've gone to other students and asked, where's this one tool, how do you upload this to this machine? I mean, it's very important. Teamwork's very important in engineering. I mean, you can't do something like this by yourself. You gotta have communication skills, you gotta talk to other people. That's really what it's all about.
by collaborating across silos and across departments, we enable mechanical engineering students who want to do a project in wood to come use our facilities, and our students who want to do a project in metal or in glass or something that they have in fine arts or something that they have in engineering. We have those communication channels opening up to allow those students to take that project and go to another facility, work with the faculty and the staff and the students in those areas, gather some of that expertise, and then bring it back home along with a completed project.
In a previous CAD class, I had heard about the 3D printer on campus before, but I hadn't gotten involved with the Maker Movement as of yet. But when I was doing this case study, my friend, who was the editor-in-chief of Spark magazine, which is a fashion magazine on campus, had a student contributor who was an engineering student. As designers, we sketch things, then we have a lot of loose intentions when we draw things, because it's more about the overall look and the feeling that we want. But once I had to have a discussion with an engineering student, and he literally asked me, what tangent angle do you want on the heel? I didn't know how to respond to that, so that was really cool to get out a caliper and look at rulers and really understand how a shoe works from a designer perspective.
I think there are tremendous opportunities going into the future for example, art students to work with engineering students and do some really creative things, architecture students with art and engineering, and all those areas are tremendous opportunities in the future.
The Maker Movement is, for me, it's kind of an umbrella or a reason for people to get together and work on something collaboratively. And so I think for a university to be embracing the Maker Movement like UT is a really smart decision for the future of what we think a university education is.
The first ideas about 3D printing came out of a research lab here in the Cockrell School. It's called selective laser sintering. And it's a way of making metal parts using a laser. This has now morphed into many other types of 3D printing. That would not have been possible without some of the work that was done here in the Cockrell School.
The Maker Movement is a game changer for the University of Texas because it fundamentally addresses how the university needs to move into the 21st century.
What I do hope to see is that our students graduate, and because of the experience they've had here, including this creative experiential learning in the maker type activities, will go on and do great things once they graduate. And then we hear 10 years from now, 20 years from now, an alumnus who's been very successful and prominent says, it was that experience that allowed me to explore and to create and led them on a path of success. That's what we're really here for.